So this is your first time in Brazil, right?
Yep.
Very first steps ever, yeah, in Brazil. Yeah, it's strange. I don't know. I mean, yeah, we've travelled a lot, but I don't know why I've never come to Brazil before.
And what are your first impressions of Brazil?
A lot of traffic getting here, as we talked about. Yeah, good. It's a good feeling. Yeah, it feels good. It's like the vibe is good. I like it. Yeah.
It's what you guys imagine, Brazil.
The pictures we get sent, or if people imagine Brazil to be Rio, obviously Sao Paulo isn't Rio. It's very different.
We don't have beaches on the city of São Paulo.
No beach, no sea, no Christ the. But it's good. It's good. It's a very real place.
And why did you guys take so long to come to Brazil?
It's a long way.
We wanted to make sure you really, really wanted us to come before we came. So, no, I don't know. I mean, well, we obviously were apart for a long time, so that probably didn't help matters either. But so I guess since we've come back together, what was it, 2015? So 3-4 years. It's not so bad to come here in the end. We've gone to a lot of new places since we sort of regrouped. So Brazil had to be on the list. Yeah.
People don't understand that we only go to places we're invited. We never take ourselves there. So promoters in Brazil have to invite us to come over, and we always say yes. So when people say, "Oh, you never come here," or "You never come there," well, it's because we don't get asked.
Yeah, and that's why I said, like, 'cause we had some people from Argentina saying, "Oh, you're not coming to Argentina. This is not cool," or whatever. And I'm like, "Well, why don't you speak to people to ask us to try and make it happen? You know, we can't just sort of make it happen without someone, you know, a promoter trying to book it." So. Brazil people have made it happen, so we're happy to be here.
And talking about the new album, how was the process of writing and recording this new album?
Pretty much the same as it always is. Each song comes from one of us individuals as the first seed of a song. Sometimes it's just a tiny seed, sometimes it's a fully formed demo. And that gets brought into the forum, and we all work on it, and then the song is made. So it's quite collaborative.
And why the name of the album? This is not a safe place.
It came up in one of Andy's lyrics. Is that right? And is this to do with the basket?
Yeah.
The stuff that I'm not so sure about, but I think it's a. We're not. Well, I can't say about the code thing, but yeah, it's like something that was it was a recurring theme from basket exhibition that Andy. Did you go to it as well, Stu?
Yeah. Jean-Michel.
You need to speak to Steve about the basket thing.
So he put on a big retrospective, or he didn't because he's no longer with us, but it was a big retrospective art show in London that Andy and I went to separately, and it was an amazing thing to see, and some of the concepts that he worked on kind of found their way into, well, certainly the way Andy used as inspiration for the songs he was writing. And This Is Not a Safe Place refers to the hobo life in New York, where they would have a code, and if they felt that they basically put graffiti on the wall warning other homeless people not to sleep in a certain place because it wasn't safe. So there's a special code on the wall saying this is not a safe place, and there'd be other codes meaning other things like, oh, you can get hot food here or whatever. So there was a secret kind of graffiti code that just the homeless community in New York knew about, and that's really where that comes from.
I didn't really know so much about that. That's interesting. And in general terms with like weather diaries and that, I mean, as well, I thought just a bit more globally, it's kind of quite apt again, as was weather diaries, because obviously we sort of English talk about the weather a lot, are renowned for it, but obviously the weather now is talked about in a different way because everybody's got that underlying kind of feel and paranoia that the climate's going crazy and that we're all going to boil to death, and with climatic change. So I think they're kind of just, for me, were kind of things that are just in the psyche a little bit, quite zeitgeisty.
And the first track's called Ride. I'm curious to know why the name of the band for the first track.
Actually, is it called Ride or just R-I-D-E? I think there's a dot in between. We just felt it, because it was an instrumental piece, we just felt it was a good title.
And there was a little sample on the track which goes, "Ride," and it just seemed, we thought, we've never done that before, just kind of put, did we ever do that before? We did an instrumental maybe once, "Ride Mindfuck" or something, didn't we? Yeah. But that didn't make it. But
very early days.
yeah, so yeah, again, you know, we haven't done that one yet, so
But
we
the song,
want to add something. You know, the thing is, of making new records, you definitely don't want to. I think not that we're making that effort. We're kind of very different people to the people we were. Or they were the same people, but with different inspiration to the people that made the records 20-odd years ago. So, and I think we're quite conscious that music now should reflect where we're at now, and it's not worth doing this if you're just going to duplicate. You've got to add something. So I think it's nice that I feel that these records are really adding something to what we're doing, and that's why it feels exciting to be doing it again, really.
and why did you guys choose the first single to be Future Love?
I think it was an early demo that came out of Andy's camp, and I think we all sort of individually commented that, hey, that sounds like a single. And then the label, our Wichita guys, came into the studio and did that thing as well. When we started playing them back the tunes, they were like, single. Like, okay, yeah, I just can't work out singles and what's what anymore, because I just feel too inside of it already. But it kind of got that call, and I think it seems to be going down all right. Yeah, maybe we've made a better decision on singles because we've made a few clangers in the past.
When we first started out, we were very much in control of 100% of what we would release as single, tracks we'd have on EPs, etc. But since we've reformed, the whole music industry has changed completely. And I don't think any of us really understands how it all works. So we have to rely on label, people to do our social media, or that parts of the business that didn't exist 30 years ago. So we're open to listening to other people's opinions. And if someone, if the label says and our management both say that's a single, then who are we to argue? And it is an instant. I wouldn't say it's necessarily reflective of the whole album. It's a very kind of summer sunshine tune, but some of the other tracks on the album are quite sort of heavy and dark. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of, I guess we're kind of luring people in a little bit to the nightmare that is the rest of the album.
But I think personally, it's quite nice because England's in a real state of depression, I feel, at the moment, because the politics have so messed up, and this whole Brexit thing, which we don't want to talk about here. But I think it's just nice. It's just something that suddenly just comes out, and it's really just so away from that, positive, very fresh. Yeah, it's good, and and what I think something we always have done kind of well is the dual vocal thing, but with the sort of harmony vocal thing. And we've always sort of name checked the Byrds, Beatles back in the day, or whatever. So I like that combination of vocals, and I think this track does that well. It's kind of nice. It's sort of, yeah, it's all good, but it'd be nothing without the rhythm boys, obviously.
And you talk about social media, design, streaming. Now you have this. On the right begin, didn't have this thing happen. It's easier now to have a band?
No, I think it's harder now. Nothing lasts for very long. Everything lasts for 24 hours. So, we announced that we're going to release a record, a track. So a track it appears on all the streaming sites. Everybody tweets about it and says how much they love it. But then 2-3 days later, it's almost everybody's moved on to the next thing. So it's a completely different world than what we were used to 20, 30 years ago, where you put a record out, it would stay in the shops, it would stay in the indie charts for a few weeks, people would keep on talking about it. Everything was slower back then. Yeah,
it's strange because I suddenly remembered that I did this thing called Guitar Days thing for Brazil. It's like a film and I only watched it for the first time today. And on that they had this graph which went like about physical sales going like that, but then streaming going like that. So it's a sort of double-edged thing. And I think for some new acts, it's kind of helps them possibly get known and get out there, because you're not reliant on middlemen giving you deals to make records and all that sort of stuff. It's like those filters have gone completely, but at the same time it means there's like a hailstorm, and there's so many people trying it that it's really hard then for your little individual thing to shine through when the storm of like a hailstorm of so many people putting out music now. I sort of, but it's the way it is now, and it's good and bad with all of it. I mean, I go really in and out of kind of feeling good about social media. Sometimes it's good because you get an immediate response from people that are coming to your shows. Other times I just think, oh, it's just the same old nonsense going round and round, and it's just so. And I just can't be really bothered with it half the time. But then at other times, like when I'm in traffic this morning, it seemed good time to, you know what I mean, just to do that and just to sort of, yeah. But social media for social media's sake, I think is pretty sad, and I think it can also show that the desperation of people or whatever, which kind of is quite ugly and quite sad, really. Yeah.
And our list about showgaze have right. Do you like the label of showgazing scene? Do you agree with this?
Seems pretty broad. I mean, yeah, yeah, you can't. Yeah, there's something to it, of course. I mean, initially it was just something we were being called in England, and we were on world tours, and we came home, and it was like, oh, we've been called shoegaze, and it's like, what the hell is that? And I think at the same time, probably bands like, you know, Nirvana or Mudhoney, people that were getting the grunge label, they probably thought, what does grunge mean? You know, I think it's always like a good way to collectively and lazily talk about a number of bands maybe that have got something similar, but it seems very wide. I mean, if you're not doing rock and roll and if it's alternative and it has a bit of dreamy sort of thing about it and a soundscape to it, you know, Sigur Rós to Slowdive to it, you know, to many other Brazilian bands that I've been made aware of a little bit, they seem to get your shoegaze. But I mean, you know, it's like the thing, shoegaze, the sound for the sound's sake is not really that interesting, but if there's a great song in there, then if it could be shoegaze, it can be metal, it can be bossa nova, it could be a lot of things, and it will be great, you know. So I think people just get a bit carried away with the sound and you know, the term maybe.
If you could go back to the past, to the young versions of you guys, what would you say to them?
To the 20-year-old me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd change that much, actually. I mean, we made a pretty good go of it. Maybe our fourth album wasn't as good as it could have been. Maybe, you know, there were a couple of choices that we made as a band that weren't the right choice at the right time. But it ran its course. It was good fun. And it was time to finish when we did finish, you know, and the 10, 15 years off that we had in between Tarantula and Weather Diaries, we all grew up, became more mature, and we can just get on with where we left off. So I don't know if we'd necessarily change anything. Not me, anyway.
I'd probably say don't smoke so much pot because you sound like a total boring idiot when you do that. So
yeah, I've changed a lot about them three. But those three, jeez.
Yeah, a few things like that. Yeah, but no, you know, it's one of those, like, Steve, there's no real regrets stuff. You make dreadful mistakes and in lots of levels, but that's the bit that changes you. You know, you don't learn anything when things are going good. It's like you learn more when you hit the wall and when things go quite wrong. You know, that's what starts. That's how you bounce back from that stuff. So I think you have to. Yeah, I wouldn't change any of that. You kind of have to go through all that stuff, good and proper.
And how much helps on the years you guys working on other projects beside Rights help you now with the reunion?
For me, well, I mean, for me, I do that a lot now, and I've just finished building a studio, and I really like it because I think it really keeps you on your toes a little bit because it makes you realise at first hand that there's like a lot of really great new music and very talented people that are ready to come through at any point, or maybe some of them don't. So that's kind of, you sort of share their frustration with that. But for me, I really enjoy it. It keeps me fresh, and I really love studio work and being in. And for me, the ultimate is mixing and things like that because it just I feel that position that you can be put in is where the kind of real alchemy is as of it, and that I even get paid in the end to do things like that. I would do that for nothing. I mean, I just think it's a great job, yeah. And also, you know, you get a bit older, and I love still traveling around the world, but that sort of work is work that comes to you, you know, so you can, it's you know, it's kind of making some work come to you rather than you always having to revolve around the world to sort of keep working. So I like it. I personally love the studio, yeah.
And last question, I want to ask your opinion about the English rock scene nowadays. Do you think it's still strong, or do you think it's not so strong as it used to be, especially in the 90s?
impossible to answer. I buy a lot of music, and I listen to even more music on streaming sites like Spotify. But English rock doesn't really, I don't know if it exists anymore. Most of the music I listen to now is probably electronica, a lot of American girls with guitars. So yeah, I don't know, unless I'm missing out on something, I'm not aware that there is really a big English rock scene. Maybe bands like 1975, but they're young kids. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, same as, I mean, just think about probably the last 4 things I bought. Idols, I'd say, quite rocking, and I thought some of their tracks now were good. But then it's like X-Ray, the girl from Daughter, I really like her solo album. Bonobo, the Fabric thing, and Max Cooper. So they're like the last 4 new. I still don't stream. I'm the only person left in the world that doesn't like have to do any sort of streaming. But I mean, I think it's great. But I hear things on the radio, so I just buy the CDs still. So they're probably the last 4 CDs I remember buying, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. Ennio Morricone, because it's just been remastered. So that shows how mixed up my.
Do you buy the CD before you know the band?
No, I generally, if I really hear something new that I like, I'm totally happy. I mean, I don't. It's bad because I don't always go to the record shops to buy them because I know I should to support that. But I am a bit of a lazy Amazon guy and I think CDs now are so reasonably priced with that platform that I'm happy to spend my sort of £5, £6, £7 or whatever and buy the CD. And I just feel that it is kind of helping the artist a little more than maybe just the streaming thing, whatever. But I know that all works in a completely different way now. But also it's because I'm a geek and I still like to hear the CD quality. For me is still the best way to hear digital music. I mean, it's the highest level that you can still hear digital music. I think the streaming, the bandwidth stuff can lower. So I just want to hear music in its as best as it possibly can be in my studio.
Thanks so much for the interview. Hope you guys have a great time here in Brazil.
Yep, sure we will, yeah. Thanks, man.